recovering today. I learned a very important spiritual truth yesterday. It is better to lay sod with multiple people than it is to lay sod by yourself. Has anyone experienced that yet? You ever laid? How many people have laid sod? This is a shocking thing. This may reveal a lot about you. Okay, so if you've never laid sod, then you obviously didn't grow up in Middleburg. Well, we didn't. We just had weeds. We helped other people lay sod, I think. But you get this giant pallet full of grass, like with dirt that's really heavy, and you walk on. It's very satisfying because you cover a lot of ground and you feel like you've made a lot of progress, and it's like nice carpeted grass after you finish. But you have to prepare it, and I had help with my kids up until 10. They had to go somewhere, and then it really slowed down and got hotter, and I had somewhere to go later, so I couldn't wait till it got, the evening we were going to be gone. So, I was just dehydrated and sitting. I thought I was stronger than that. So this week for real, I'm going to run every day, get in shape. But I think we're designed not to lay sod alone. God's will is not for you to lay sod by yourself, just so you know. In fact, that's where we're going with our message today. Because when you're laying sod by yourself, you put the headphones in and you're all isolated. But it's not as much fun, and it takes longer, and it hurts more the next day when you're 48 years old. And so if you're isolated and laying sod, or really isolated just in going about your life, you felt the soreness, the stiffness, the pain, really the coldness of heart that comes from feeling like you're not connected, because you were designed for connection. And that's where we'll be going this morning in Romans 12. We're going to see that a surrendered life to God is a shared life, which will in turn lead to other lives being surrendered when we share our lives. But as we lead up that, another way I learned that was, has anyone ever had to jump start their car? I did that a couple of weeks ago at Baptist South, and there was no one else there. It was the middle of the day, or there were other people. There was a parking lot full of cars. Thankfully, by God's grace, which is another evidence, there's talked about that in our small group this morning, but the spot next to me was open, and I'm standing there just in the parking lot with my jumper cables, watching strangers drive by and act like they're not seeing me. Like, if you ever, you know how you do that, right? Oh, I didn't see him. And then some Christians came by, which was awesome. At least I figured they were, because they stopped and they pulled in, popped the hood. We jump started. I went down to Bert and got a new alternator. Yay! We call that a car payment on our car. It's just an alternator, and then it was great. Everything was good. But when I was there alone and isolated, I felt really vulnerable. I felt really disconnected. I felt really hot. I felt really frustrated. I felt I'm really alone. I'm so thankful they stopped, or I might still be there. And so it was so nice to get that jump start. And really spiritually, sometimes we just need another person in our life to come along and believe and trust God for us. Have you ever been there where you know all this truth about God, but you just can't see it right now? You just can't feel it right now. And when you get friends around you, get connected with people that are seeing it, it helps you to see it. It helps you to grow. And so that's where I'm hoping we'll be moved to kind of move that direction and build some connections and relationships that will not only jumpstart our own hearts, but help jumpstart each other, because we're designed for connection. But the way we've set it up in this world, just like so many things, and with all this technology we have to be connected, it actually makes us feel more disconnected. In fact, if who has Facebook or a Twitter or an Instagram account? Who has one of those? Okay, so there we go. So we'll just follow each other. That'll be great. And we'll be really connected, right, if we follow each other. You would think, at least you can at least stalk each other. That's what most people do, right? We don't really interact on Facebook. We just look to see what that friend we had 40 years ago is doing now, or I hardly ever comment. Like, I'm stalking you every now and then on Facebook. Like, I'll see your update, and I rarely figured out how to click. I was trying to get you like one the other day, and I couldn't even figure out how to do that. So it's not that I don't like what you posted. I'm not smart enough to figure out how to like anything. So at least that one. I figured out another one, so I don't know the difference. But here's an interesting study that was done recently by the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. It's a great book to read if you need to go to sleep. But the American Journal of Preventive Medicine a recent study found that people who spent the most time on social platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Snapchat, or whatever the cool thing is these days. I don't even know. Like, I said Facebook, and every high schooler went, dude, that's like MySpace or something. It's like old school. But people that spend the most time, actually, they were twice as people that spent more than 2 hours a day on social media were twice as likely to report feeling isolated than people who spent 30 minutes or less a day on them. Even more striking was that people with the most frequent social site visits, 58 or more a week, and I don't know how you even get there. I guess you get there because when your mind wanders, you go there. And so you just kind of click there and you're not getting your work done, not getting your school done. You think it's a 5-minute brain break and it ends up being a 30-minute wormhole that you travel down that somehow now you're in this black hole that has taken everything. And so 58 times a week, they were 3 times as likely to feel isolated than those who logged fewer than 9 visits to that social media site. So in trying to feel connected, which is I think why they're so big, is the idea is selling something that God created us to crave, connection and not being isolated. But anytime you try to build that, whatever it's through, if it's through anything digital, for the most part, and that there are some real genuine interactions that can happen online, but the majority of it, it gives you this sense of being connected, but you're not really being connected. So it's like you trick yourself into thinking, I'm connected, but there's not a real relationship going on. And so you end up feeling more and more isolated. And in fact, sometimes when you get there, sometimes if you ever get in that loop or whatever it is, the death loop of being discouraged, like I'm discouraged, so I don't want to be around people, but I know if I was around people that would encourage me, but I just don't have it in me to go be around them and talk to them, so I'm just going to stay away from them, right? So you ever get there, and you'll always have this friend sometimes will come up and say, just cheer up. And then you for sure want to stay away from further people more because you just want to, after you smack them. And like if I could. But it's like if you can ever get out of that, and once you need a relationship to do it somehow, some way. And that's what Paul's going to reiterate for us this morning and show us in Romans 12 this morning, that if we can get this connection, and really the time to build those connections is when you're not in that situation, because then you have that routine, that regular connection, and it's going to help you avoid it. But also, you're going to find that God's going to use you to help other people avoid that discouragement, because we've all been there. Even the most outgoing person, the person that scored on personality tests or whatever those leadership things are, you're like a sanguine otter, whatever that means. Some of you know what that means, but you're like the person the party person. There are still times you need to be alone, and that's healthy. You should have some time alone. You need some isolation. That's why the best TV show on TV today is called Alone, right? And it's on the History Channel. It's great to watch. They put 10 people in the middle of nowhere. It's the only real reality show on TV, and they put them on this island, and it's fun to watch. But what you learn from Alone is that we need connection, because they'll have experts out there. Like they stick them out in the woods, and they say, if you are the last one left, you get $1 million. How do you come home knowing that I'd rather go home to get $1 million? Well, there's a few people every season that get hurt, so they have to come home. There's a couple of people, I think last season, that their body mass, they'll come out periodically. That's the only contact you have with people. They'll come out periodically and do medical checks. And their body mass index, they weren't eating enough, was getting too low, and it was dangerous for them. So the producers made them come home. And then there's one person left at the end. And what's funny is every time when I've seen, I think there's been 3 or 4 seasons of it, at the very beginning, there's all these survival experts, these people that teach how to survive. And they go out in the middle of nowhere. They went to Canada at first, and Vancouver on the west and on the Pacific side, and on this island, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's not Vancouver, I don't know what it's called, but I don't know Canada. It's like another country to me or something. But so up there, and then last year they went way down South Patagonia. It was awesome. It was crazy. But the first week or so, you always see somebody that's really overconfident, talking how they're going to win, and you just mark them, and they're the first person to go home because they're prideful, so God's going to resist that. And then 2, there's always like several of them they teach people how to survive in the wild, and they're showing up, and they're filming themselves. There's no camera crew, but they're saying, the first thing I always do when I go out and live in the wilderness for 6 months, like I'm doing now, is I'll make me a spoon, or I'll make furniture. And they start, and they have like a hut with like a fireplace and all that. They've been in the middle, and they showed up with like a machete, and they have all this amazing stuff, and you're thinking, they're never going home. Well, they go home before the other people, even though there's $1 million on the line, and it's usually because they just can't stand not seeing the people they love and care about. They can't stand not being connected because you don't have any connection, and they haven't checked their Facebook in forever, and so they're like, I don't know what to do. And they go, think about $1 million. I think you can make it, but you're just wired for this connection. And so when you feel isolated, there's something that should be going off. We're saying this is not how we're created. And as we've been going through this series UnFrozen that we're wrapping up next week, what happens is your heart gets cold toward other people and toward God. And so our key verse in Romans 12:11 tells us, do not be slothful in zeal, be fired up about living for God. and on for the mission, but to be fervent in spirit, which means to be boiling in your heart for what God has put in front of you to do with your life and serve the Lord. So we've seen from this that as we walk through Romans 12 together, the very first verse, this is really where it all starts. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God. So the whole idea doesn't start with us, let's just work ourselves up and get motivated and get fired up, and then we'll have hot hearts and we won't be cold. Paul starts us with who God is because of his mercy toward us. And you walk through Romans 1 through 11, and you'll see that we were sinners that rejected God, yet he sent his son to redeem us and died for us while we were still sinners. That even after we come to trust him in Romans 7, we still struggle and fail. But yet Romans 8 says that there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, and nothing can separate us from his love. Romans 9 through 11, which I guess they've completely answered and figured out this morning in small group, tells us that God is completely sovereign and he shows grace to who he wants to. He's an amazingly just gracious God. And because of who God is now, because of a relationship with him, so it starts with this. So because of who he is, he says, I want you to do this. You present your body to him as a living sacrifice. You say, God, I'm all yours. I'm yours. And so I want you to take my life. That's really what we do every day as Christians, but it's also what we did to become Christians. When you stepped across the line from running from God to running to God, it wasn't just, God, I want to get my fire insurance. I want to pray some prayer. I want to do some baptism thing. And when we do those things, but it wasn't just an event where you checked a box like you were buying insurance. It was a transaction where, one, God brought you from being dead toward him spiritually to being alive. But it was an act of surrender. Whether you understood it all or not, I just bet if you're really a believer, you didn't know all this deep theological words. You just knew that he's God, you're not, he's your only hope. So you would do whatever he asked, and you surrender your life to him, not thinking that you're earning it. You're trusting what Jesus did on the cross for you. But at that moment, it's not just, God, I want you to save me, and I want to live however I want. I want to live the way you want me to live. And that's what we even saw. What you see in verse 2 is that after you surrender your heart to Christ, look what happens. So you present yourself to him, wholly acceptable, which is your spiritual worship. Another word for spiritual in the original language is logikos, which it makes sense to do that because of who he is. Because whether you believe in him or not, you're going to stand before him one day. So you might as well. He created you to know him and love him. You might as well surrender to him. And then verse 2 says, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So it matters what we think about, what we read, what we listen to. Not so we earn favor, but because you've surrendered to him. This comes after that. Now you're changed that by testing, you can discern what is the will of God, what's good, acceptable, and perfect. So like before you became a Christian, if you're like me, you were thinking, if I follow Jesus, I'm not going to have any fun. I'm not going to really live life. Like God has all these rules to keep me from doing what I really want to do, what's really going to make me happy. But the reality is sin always hurts you. It always hurts someone else. It never really satisfies. And now when he changes your heart, you want to do what you ought to do, and that brings you joy. And you find that God's will is really good. It's really, really good. Like it's not just like something he's making up because he had to make a few more rules. He tells you not to lie because that's bad for every relationship you have. He tells you to be faithful in your marriage because that's healthy for not only you, for your kids. He tells you to forgive and love, not only because it's gracious and echoes who he is, but it's toxic for your soul to walk around with bitterness. It's bad for you, it's bad for other people. And so you find that by obeying God, different mic though, can't tap that like that this week. So you find that by obeying God, you actually find freedom and joy. And so we've seen that basically once we surrender our lives to God, then we saw in 3 through 8, Matthew shared with us how when a surrendered life is being changed by God, but a surrendered life is fired up, but it's also serving. And we saw that you're involved in using the way that God designed you to serve others, to help people follow him. We saw that a fired up life was a loving life in verses 9 and 10. Tom shared a couple weeks ago how a surrendered life is a praying life, a patient life, an enduring life. And then last week we saw that it's a loving life, that we love others, we honor each other because of the way God's loved us. And this week we're going to see that it's a shared life, it's a connected life. Because really, if you're not connected, if you're not sharing your life, you're missing out. In fact, we all know, culture knows this is true. We just know this instinctively, I think, because even it's like there's the anthem of my youngest daughter's generation. The anthem of my youngest daughter's generation says this: one of the most popular songs. It says, don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. What's the next line?
Let it go.
That's right. So here's the whole lyric for you, just so you can see. So the problem in this series, if you haven't seen Frozen, has everybody seen Frozen? Everybody has little kids? And I didn't want to do that because I'm looking for kids, so I apologize if your kids are singing that the rest of the day. But because my 3-year-old, she's figured out how to ask Alexa, which if your name is Alexa, that'd have to be hard to have an Echo. But we have an Echo, and she can go up to it and ask it to play Let It Go, and it understands her. I can't understand what she's saying, but Alexa can with that, which is cute the first 3 times. But the 300th time, you're like, let it go, really. We're going to change the name of it or something. But the song is about, and if you've seen the movie, the problem isn't that Elsa can freeze things. She's like this girl here that can freeze things, and it was great. But her parents, somewhere along the way, after she kind of hurt her sister, they felt like if other people know that this is who she is, we're going to have problems. So you have to hide it. You have to keep it in. You have to, not let them see who you really are. And she runs away and ends up making this awesome giant ice castle. And she's singing this song like, whoo, now I'm free. Now I can be who I really am. But she's all alone. And being all alone, you're going to make bad decisions. You're going to do things. She ends up making this giant snow monster that almost kills her sister. I mean, it doesn't go well. Like, that's not the win in the end of the movie. It's bad, and the bad thing isn't that she can freeze stuff. The bad is that she's having to conceal it and not be known and be isolated. And in fact, that's how it starts. I'm a queen in this kingdom of isolation. And so while she's there, she's alone. And the movie is resolved. Is in the end of it, she doesn't have to be. I don't want to spoil it for you. Those of you that have not seen it 500 times. But at the end of it, what makes it okay is her being restored to the community, her being connected and being accepted for who she is, and it's not. And that's because I think God made us that way. The reason it was such a success is the movie echoes a truth that God's put deep in our hearts that He really reiterates even here in verse 13 of Romans 12. So let's do a little checkup on our hearts and see how we're doing. And really, these 4 things we're going to talk about are commands from God. They're things you can do, but really they're not things you do in order to be right with God. They're things you can actually look at and say, how am I doing in this area, to tell if you're in danger of your heart growing cold toward God if you're a believer. If you're not a believer, these are great things, but you need to go back to verse 1 and start there. You need to surrender your heart to Jesus. That's what all this is. None of these things will make you right with God. This is what it should look like when we're living surrendered lives. So our surrendered life should start. So is your heart cold? Just look at verse 13. Here's some good practical stuff to do. Look at verse 13. Contribute to the needs of the saints, Paul says. So if you follow the money, you'll find your heart. I wanted to pull my wallet out, but I left it in my desk, so it might be good. So I'm not going to ask you to do it, but if you had your wallet right now, just pull your wallet out. Like, how does that make you feel? Even when I ask you to do that, like, we're going to pass the plate, right? You're going to put, everybody's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We put baskets back there together, and people are so generous here. So that's not what this is about. But to be generous, hopefully you invest in the kingdom somewhere. But when Paul writes and says contribute to the needs of the saints, he's saying, you've surrendered everything to me, so you contribute. And that really means financially. So he's not just talking about our time, we want to do our talents, we do that. But he's saying when you see a brother or sister in need, you give them money. You invest in them. Are you doing that? Because Jesus said this about money. Look what he said. He said, where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be. Where your treasure goes, that's where your heart's going to go. And so once you start to invest in someone else, you're going to find your heart getting warmer toward them. You start caring more about it. If you don't care about kids starving on the other side of the world today or anywhere else, and it's really just right down the road from us, pretty close by in Haiti or somewhere like that, if that doesn't affect you at all, go home today and go to Compassion International and click on and pick a kid from that area of the country, maybe somewhere you'll go, and you start to sponsor them for $30, $40-something a month. $40 a month. It might mean you have to get one less giant caramel latte or whatever it is, but $40 a month, every week. And what's going to happen is you're going to start to think about this kid. You're going to start to pray about this kid. You're going to start to know when their birthday is. You're going to start to think that, and then when you go to work and you earn money or you get allowance or whatever it is you're doing, it's not just for you. It becomes for something greater than you. It really makes sense. But you contribute to the needs of the saints. You're going to see that as you give, your heart moves toward what you are investing in. So wherever your money is going, that shows where your heart is, where it goes the most. Because we easily give money to what we care about the most. Like, you don't think twice about it. But the things that we're not so sure about, we get really kind of, I don't know, we make excuses. And there is a wisdom in not just throwing money at stuff, at people, because you could hurt them doing that way. But there's got to be somebody. Hopefully there's somebody. Hopefully if you're part of Providence, you're supporting regularly here. But if you are not here, hopefully your home church, but really not just your church, but like your friends, your neighbors, your family. There should be someone somewhere that you're helping financially. Because what we do is we think, if you have a hard time with that, what's happened is you're thinking, this is my security if I have stuff, probably. You're saying, if I just have more stuff and I can't let go of this, I can't. What does the song say? Let it go, right? I got to hang on. And what you're going to find is that stuff and money, it's a monkey trap. You know what a monkey trap is? This is a monkey trap right here. Here's a monkey trap. Let's see if we can show it to you. So that's a monkey trap. It's a gourd. They hollow it out in the places where they catch monkeys to eat them, by the way. Monkey's going to be food eventually. And so to catch the monkey, they put a little hole in the gourd that's just bigger than the monkey's hand. It works with 3-year-olds as well, just so you know. If you stick toys or you stick some peanuts in there, monkey reaches in to grab them, and he can't get his hand out because he thinks, I've got to get the food. I don't want to let go of the food. And he won't let go of the food. He'd be free if he'd let go of the food, and he wouldn't be eaten, but he's going to hang on to that food, and whoever's hunting him will come up, and however they do it, and he'll be on the fire later, right? So that monkey trap has kept him, but what he needs to do, again, is this. Look at the next one. So you just need to just let it go. Just say, look, it's not about the stuff. There's someone that has a need. I can help them. And I know I had this set aside so that I could get 43 caramel macchiatos, but this week I'll just get 42, and I'm going to help this person. Or maybe I'll have a shorter vacation, or I'll have to wear the clothes a little bit longer, but these folks will have food. These people will get the help they need. And I'm specifically not, I think regularly, generally, there are a lot of Christians here that give regularly to church. I think you should do that. But I'm specifically talking about outside of that, because a lot of you already do that. Most of you do. If you're a Christian and you have a hard time giving like that, then your heart's getting cold toward God. You're not trusting Him. But to look outside of that and look to the compassion kid, look to someone else that you can help, just maybe on your street even, in a way, to give to them. And you'll find your heart starts to get warm. Because giving is more than just a way to heat up your heart. It's worship that actually pleases God. Look at Hebrews 13:16. It says, do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, because a surrendered life is a shared life. For with such sacrifices, they're pleasing to God. So the indication is that if you're not sharing, if you're not doing good and sharing what you have, that's not pleasing to God. And listen, the moment you invest in someone else's life, you're going to find your heart becoming more fired up and more warm to that. Have you ever bought an individual stock or even a mutual fund? And you didn't think about it for weeks before, but the moment you did, you start watching that, right? You start looking at it. And just from past experience, here's how it worked with me one time. It wasn't a whole lot of money, but I bought stock in a company called Magnatech because we're going to be millionaires, right? It was going to be awesome because they're the company that makes the batteries for those Segway scooters, right? Those things are going to change the world too. And my brother-in-law, we got all geeked up about it. So he talked me into buying stock in that, but it wasn't much. But I found that after I invested in the company, actually, this is the backwards way to do it if you're going to invest. I learned a lot more about the company after I put money in it because I was watching what their stock did and I learned more about the company. You should probably do that before you buy the money, but then you still are going to be interested. There's something about wherever your money goes, your heart's going to go there. So if your heart and your money is going to help someone else's kids have what they need for school, to help someone on the other side of the world have food today, your heart's going to start to look a lot more like God's. It's going to get warmer. It's going to get better. So share your money because a surrendered life is a shared life. But if you have a cold and isolated heart, really, you need to give and share it with others. And so look at the next part of that verse, though, too. He says this cold heart toward God is not just about giving to others and doing that. It's about opening yourself up. It's not just your wallet, but it's your house keys, too. It's your car keys. You say, God, here's my wallet, here's my car keys. I want you to use these for your glory. And so he says, giving is a way to show hospitality. Look at the verse. It says, and seek to show hospitality. The idea behind seeking means I'm not just going to do this if it's convenient, if the need presents itself, but I'm looking for ways to help my neighbors feel comfortable in my front yard. I'm looking for ways when I go to school to make the person that's sitting by themselves not feel alone. It is opening our house. And in this context where Paul wrote it, he was talking about them opening their homes. It was dangerous to travel when Jesus was born. No one was hospitable toward Mary and Joseph. And so he's born in a stable. And that's dangerous in that day and age. All they had, there wasn't a hotel. There was just, you had to open your home to have someone stay there. But what you find is when you open your home and have someone stay there, or when you take 15 minutes to talk to the person no one else is talking to, you find that being hospitable it helps everything about that moment stick out to you. You remember it, but it also, you're showing the love of God. That's why we have a welcome team here. In fact, if you want to apply this real easily, just flip your connection card over, grab one from the seat or out of your bulletin, and check welcome team and get on that team. Or go, people that are working with our kids over there, they're trying to make them feel welcome and making parents feel welcome. And it's designed, the idea is we don't want anyone ever to come to Providence, even though it still happens occasionally, rarely I hope, where they feel like no one cares, they feel like they weren't welcome, or they feel like they weren't connected with. And it's more than just, here's a bulletin, we want to hold the door. It is this idea of, man, we care, and we want to listen. We want to make you feel welcome. Or maybe opening our homes even. As we do that, we decide not to because, well, people might know that there's, our house isn't always clean. We've done, so we're going to do small group probably in our house again for the next series coming up. You can sign up for that, for the journey home, and host a small group. And it's going to lead itself almost. I'm so excited about it. But when you open your home to other people and they come over, suddenly you start to clean a little better, don't you? And you think, oh, what if nobody comes? Well, then you end up with a clean house. It's awesome. And sometimes some of our favorite nights are when, like, we had a bunch of people signed up to come and almost no one comes and only one couple or one family comes. It's like it's almost better some ways. Because then, what I love is eating. That's why Wednesday night, bring some food and we'll be up here. And I love just getting to know each other as we sit around and talk and connect. And I'm telling you, God uses that. I really believe with all my heart. I think what I'm doing is important. I take it seriously. But I don't think that me talking to you is all you need to fix your life. I think God can miraculously do anything. He works through his word. I think that's great. But what I've seen over and over again, it's relationships that God used in my life to bring me to faith, that God's going to use. And if we're not around each other, we don't know each other. But if we're afraid of what people think of us, we're not going to open our homes. If we're afraid that our home's too big or too small, we're going to say, no, it's not there, and we won't do it. So I just want to challenge you this week. I want to challenge you. The next 2 weeks, I want you to have someone over to your house for dinner, for lunch, for something. Maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's someone at Providence, but just do that. And then for those of you that are really up to the challenge, like you're varsity Christians, I want to up the game a little bit here. I want you not to clean right before they come. And some of you look terrified right now, but guess what? We all know it's a mess. It's okay. Like, we live in a mess, and you live in a mess. And if your best friend comes over, you're not going, no, you can't come in. You're just letting them come in because they're going to help you pick up the laundry, right? They're going to come in and jump in or step over the toys or whatever it is. It's not a big deal. But the reality is, what we're saying is, I want to be known but not really known. And so maybe we just make a pact that, like, we didn't really clean for a month, but we're going to have somebody over every week. That'd be awesome. I think we really know each other and we really love each other. It'd be cool. Just an idea. Maybe just because I don't like cleaning, but I like, unless it's like OSHA danger, then keep the food. Make sure it's not dangerous. But we don't want to see it on the news where they take everything, because or the reality show, the Hoarders reality show. We won't want you there. But when we just realize that if we're hospitable, we moved our grills to the driveway. You move your grill to the driveway and put some extra hot dogs on it. That's being hospitable, because then your neighbors are going to come by and you're going to find you can talk to them. It's going to be amazing. We have a couple in the 8 o'clock service. They intentionally, they're on the corner of my street, and every time I come around the corner, they're out there with their kids, it seems like. And it can't be every time, but it feels like it. And there's a neighbor over with them, and they're just connectable. And I was talking to them this morning, and they said, we did it on purpose after some drama happened in the neighborhood, and they realized we've got to get to know somebody, some people, and the only way to do this, we don't know what to do, so we can just start hanging out in the front, because, one, the kids aren't tearing up the house then, but then it's like people walk by, and little kids, they just talk to anybody. So all of a sudden, you've got all these other friends, and it's amazing if we're intentional. They're seeking to show hospitality. So I just want to challenge you to do that. If you've got a cold, isolated heart, start doing that and try to include other people, because I'm telling you, we're wired for this. That's why I think Airbnb, you ever heard of Airbnb? Has anyone stayed at an Airbnb? It came with these 3 guys, 2 of them's name I can pronounce, and I'm going to quote one that I can't, Nathan Belzerchek. He was the engineer that kind of designed it all. But he moved out from these 2 guys that lived in San Francisco, and then they realized they couldn't afford their rent. And there was a design conference coming to town in San Francisco, so they put on the bulletin board, come stay in we have little bitty 2-bedroom apartment, and we're going to put air beds in the living room, and you come stay, but we'll take you to all the cool restaurants. We'll take you, you'll have inside connection with someone, and you come stay here. And it worked for them. And they thought, this is the best idea ever. And so they went and they tried to sell it to someone. And they said, these investors who now regret not investing, because they went to them and said, we got a great idea. We'll make a website where people can offer rooms in their home for rent. They can make extra cash with stuff they already have, and then get to know people and connect with new people and make people feel comfortable when they come to town. And some of them did what you're doing right now. They said, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. That's crazy. We put locks on our doors for a reason. We don't want to be connected. We want to be isolated. We want to be like Elsa in the castle, right? We don't want these strangers in our house. And other people said, wow, that's the best idea ever. Well, it turns out there's something that resonates with humanity with this, because here's where they are today. So today, they have over 3 million listings. They have more rooms than any hotel chain in the world. They have 200 million guests have stayed there in 65,000 cities. And there's 191 countries around the world. But the coolest thing is, today, we can go home. In fact, right now, you could pull out your phone and you could reserve a room for you and your family in one of 1,400 castles. And you could just stay the night, spend the night in a castle. And sometimes you get the whole thing to yourself. But it's an amazing thing. The reason it works, though, is because, look at their mission statement. I love their mission statement. I don't know if it is Nathan Belzerchek. He said this. He said, we want to make it possible. We want to make it possible for anyone to be able to belong anywhere. I mean, this is sounding like church. That's what we want for here, to belong here. We believe that when you travel, or when you come to church, I would say, you should be able to connect with your surroundings. And here's what he gets. I don't even know if he's a believer. He says, and that has a potential to transform you, transform the way you think about the world. It changes you more to have a friend in Italy that you stay with than it does to just go see Italy. That'll change you, or wherever it is. There's that relationship that's changing us, and we're designed for this. So maybe today you open your home, maybe you just get on the welcome team, maybe you start to just look around, and instead of just going to work and going to your desk, you kind of slow down and look for people that you can take time and be hospitable toward, because God was so hospitable toward us. We rejected him, we ran from him, and he came for us and made it possible for us to be forgiven and to be part of his family. And you think, well, what happens if weird people come over? What happens if I start a conversation with somebody that, is difficult? Well, then you know how God feels sometimes. But also, you get to apply the next verse. Verse 14 says, and we'll talk about this more next week, but you get to bless those that persecute you. You get to bless and do not curse them. You get to give them hot dogs anyway, or give them whatever, salad, or just love them. And it's great. You get to be like Jesus, because that's what he did for us. That's what he did on the cross. They were crucifying him, and he was praying that God would forgive them, but also, as he's on the cross, he's dying for the people that killed him. One of the Roman soldiers, it looks like in the story, becomes a believer. So he's paying for his sin. It's pretty amazing. Think about. And if we follow Christ and we start to be hospitable, we start to open our homes, and we start to open really more than just our homes, but our lives, and say, here's, my car, you need a car. There, I'll give you a ride. That's why the whole Uber thing works. It's this idea of, God gave us these resources, not just for ourselves, but to bless others with and to connect with others. So if you have an isolated and a cold heart, check your wallet, check your keys, see what you're doing with those areas of your life, and step out and be hospitable and start to look for people that aren't connected and try to connect with them. You're going to find yourself blessed. This happened to me just last night. I didn't want to go because we were all exhausted, and there was a thing for the niece swim team, and I kind of wanted to go because one of my kids was involved in that, and that was exciting to see them get their hats, and it was just a big fun night. There's also a recruiting thing where they try to get you to volunteer for the car wash and all the other stuff, so I knew that was coming too. But then I'm seeing it like it's getting worse, and I'm in this moment right now. I don't know emotionally how it's weird, because a lot of you, in fact, there's someone in here today that's going away to college tomorrow that I've known since they were I've got a picture of them with my baby, as a baby with my son, and so he's about to go, and then my daughter's going to go after that, and I have so many friends that have already sent their kids to college, and so I show up at this thing, already exhausted, not feeling chatty, not wanting to connect, just let's do this, I'm going to eat, and I'm going to cheer and see it, and I'll enjoy that, but then I want to get out of here. And so I show up, and I see all these kids that I coached when they were, or a few of them, that I coached when they were 6 years old, and now they're seniors or juniors, and it's like, man, that went so fast. What happened? Now it's all coming back up again. Now I'm getting there, so I'm going to back away from that. But so I'm not feeling connectable, and we go to sit down, and I'd been trying to rehydrate. Is this too much information? I was trying to rehydrate a lot, so I get there, I'm looking for the bathroom, and so Leslie sit down with Sadie, and I come, and she's at a table, it was on the other side, and there was almost no one around except this one guy sitting right here. There's one guy sitting right here by himself, and I just want to sit down and talk to my wife, and there's something in me. I didn't feel chatty, I didn't feel like connecting, but for some reason, I don't know, I just felt, probably because I'd been saturating in this, so I couldn't get away with it anymore, and so I just introduced myself to him, and we started to talk to him. He's an amazingly fascinating guy. He's from Korea originally, and a super smart guy. He went to the same school that my wife did, but he graduated. He got a PhD in molecular biology, which I'm not sure that's what. I think what that means is it was something that you wouldn't understand if I told you what it really was. When he said that, I could tell he was looking at me. It's some kind of biology thing, but he left the biology. Here's the amazing thing. I'm just sitting there thinking, this is fascinating right here. And then two, he left that field to go be a pastor. And went to RTS down in Orlando. He planted a church down there. He's planted Korean-speaking churches up here. Met at Cross Creek, our friends up the road there, for a while. And now he's looking to relocate and plant somewhere up further in Jacksonville. And it was like this like revival. Like, I'm having church now. Like, I didn't even want to be here. Part of me, I wanted to be here and I didn't want to chat. And now it's like, man, I'm just getting fired up in my soul about this. And it was just so good for my soul. And it was only because I stepped outside of the comfort zone. It wasn't in my own strength. It was just the grace of God. But because if I never met him, I wouldn't know Paul. I wouldn't even know all this. And now, like, I want to help him. Like, I'm trying to think of friends that have a place they could meet up there, and it just made it. I don't know. It's such a blessing. So you don't know who you're going to talk to when you leave this place just by saying hi. How that's going to affect you if you just reach out and open up and connect, and try to help people feel welcome. Because really what happens then is you start to do what the next one says, and we're almost done. The third thing you need to do is I want to encourage you to take out your headphones for a minute. Well, not your headphones, but take them out of your ears. You ever have these? You see these around? Like, these are like gold in my house sometimes. So I have to write my name on some of them. And the ones I write my name on, I say they're mine, but they're not really, because then one of my kids will break theirs, and then I'll give them mine, or they'll ask for mine, and I'll loan it to them. At least I think I loan it to them. They think I give it to them. I probably actually give it to them. And then I see them with it later, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing with that? And they're like, you gave it to me. Oh, yeah, I remember. Well, this is all tangled up now. But I was wearing these yesterday, and these have to do with what the next verse says. Look at the next verse. I'll show you in a second. He says, to rejoice, verse 15, you have to listen with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. What he's saying is, instead of being isolated, instead of just saying, I want to keep all my stuff, I want to keep everything safe, I'm going to open myself up, I'm going to invest in other people. But to rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep means you have to listen to people. You have to pay attention. You can't be in your own world. The great thing about these is I'm listening to Martin Lloyd-Jones yesterday while I'm laying side. I didn't have them in when my kids were out there helping me because I just wanted to encourage them and thank them. And, man, I'm glad you guys are doing this, and instruct them. But I have them in, and Leslie, who I love, is just one of the hugest evidences of God's grace in my life. She comes over to talk to me. And so she's coming to talk to me. I'm listening to Martin Lloyd-Jones, who's long dead and gone, amazing man of God. But I'm like, hold on. And so she has something important to say to me, something actually encouraging to say to me. I'm going, no, wait, I can't hear you right now. And I can't just pull this out because I'll lose Martin Lloyd-Jones' place, which I could just go back and find. But for some reason, I got to pull my phone out of my pocket, take my gloves off, get everything out, and then stop it, and then go, okay, I can hear you. Have you ever been there? Anybody have teenagers? Not bagging on you guys, because I'll do it too. Like, one time we're going to do a road trip, though, and we're going to have no headphones the whole trip. It'll be awesome. Or it'll be horrible, right? Or it might be horrible. I'm not sure. But we're going to talk, or we'll just sleep. But sometimes you can do that, and I'll do it too. I do it. I'll get the music on or the sermon on, and what happens is you get in your own world almost, and it's great for studying. It's an advantage for studying, or even just killing time. If you're sitting back there and nobody's talking to you, you might as well do that. But once you take these out, it almost forces you to interact with the people around you. And when you start to do that, you start to see people that are hurting. And sometimes you don't have the answer for them, so you just come alongside and you weep with them. But you have to care about them to do that. The reason your heart's not touched by someone that's had a loss is because you're not at the graveside with them. You're not at their house after they find out. And sometimes we don't do that because we think we have to have the answer. What God's saying is if you have a surrendered life, it's a shared life, so you don't have to have the answer. You just have to be there with them. Or you don't rejoice with those that got the promotion because you wanted the promotion, or they have the house and you didn't get the house, or their marriage looks like something that you wish yours did. And so we start to think, which really you're only seeing their Instagram photos, so it's not what it looks like. But you think that their life is so much better, and you're not rejoicing with them. But when you understand, really the next verse talks about being in harmony, which means we're going the same direction. But when you get that we're here to love God and love people, and we have everything we need from him. You're able to rejoice with those who rejoice. You're able to take 15 minutes and take some time with your neighbors, take some time with your kids, and not be in your own world, and you identify, then you find your heart getting warmer. Saw it illustrated so well last night when we came home after, and it was a good event. It was a good night. And so then we came home, and I'm really glad I went. Came home and saw my kids, my daughters, 2 daughters were home. They were watching Chopped on Hulu. Has anybody ever watched Chopped? It's like on Food Network or something. I'm thinking, I don't like cooking. But I like to watch these shows because you get to see people get voted off. It's like Survivor on like and cooking. And so the first one, they start off with 4 people, and they start off with like an appetizer, an entree. How do they get 4 things? I thought maybe it's only 3. Maybe it's just an entree, an appetizer, and a dessert. I think it is, because it gets down to 2. But every round, someone gets eliminated, which is fun to watch. Because the first one we watched that I saw, it had some people on there that didn't have the most attractive personality. Like you're rooting for them to get cut because they're like smack talking the other people, thinking they're better, they got it all figured out, and they're going to win. They're talking bad about other people's stuff, and you're going, man, I hope that, we called her Cruella de Vil. Well, I hope Cruella de Vil gets voted off, right? We wanted her gone, but then there were a couple that we liked. But every time on that first show, someone got voted off, you could see them walk off, just their head hanging. They didn't say anything to anyone else. They just felt like they lost and they failed. And then Hulu immediately plays the next episode because they want to get you, down the black hole or the wormhole of whatever show you're watching. So it goes right away, and there's no commercials, so they're only 15 minutes long. The next one was a military theme, and so they had people that served in different branches of the armed forces, and these amazing stories of people that were in Afghanistan, Iraq, and even though they're in different branches of the military, and you want to make fun of each other all the time. If you're in the Navy, you make fun of Army, or Army, you make fun of Marines, and you give and they were ribbing each other, giving a hard time, but you could tell there was this camaraderie there. And I'm telling you, to a person, I think it seemed like every time one of them left, it wasn't ever, oh man, I failed, I can't believe they did that. Every time I think they left, they looked at everybody else that was left and said, hey, good luck, guys. You guys get on it. You keep going. And it was like they were encouraging it. They were rejoicing with those that rejoiced. And what happened was they were going to get voted off anyway. But when they started rejoicing with those that rejoiced, they're walking out with their head held high. They're walking out wanting good things for the people that just beat them, theoretically. Even though they lost the moment, they really won in life. And that's what will happen to you if you start to rejoice with those that rejoice and weep with those that weep. Is it's not just about you getting your stuff done. It's being there for each other. And there's a caring, and there's a heat that comes into your heart and your faith because you look like God does when he shows up here and identifies with us. The shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept, right? He doesn't weep with Mary and Martha because Lazarus is dead. I don't think because he doesn't know how it's going to, I know it's not because he doesn't know how it's going to turn out. He knows Lazarus is coming back. So the only thing that makes sense is he's identifying with them, and he's hurting because they're hurting, maybe the effects of sin, what it's done to people he loves. But he's weeping with those that weep and just connected. And so this surrendered life, it's a shared life in that we're listening to each other, we're connecting with each other, we're giving to each other, we're sharing our resources with each other. And what that really ends up looking like is verse 16. We're complimenting each other and not just saying, hey, nice shoes kind of compliment, or good, nice haircut, or you look great today. But compliment with an E in the compliment part, where we make each other look better. We're working in harmony. Live in harmony. Here's an interesting thing to underline maybe, with one another. You don't live in harmony by yourself. You have to live in harmony. It means you have to be connected with someone else that is going the same direction, playing the same song, playing different notes maybe, using different gifts and talents and abilities, Romans 12, 3-8. And we're saying, God, we want to glorify God in our way, and we want to encourage you to do that in your way. So just try this. Here's how you can live in harmony. We should all sing together. I should have done that. That would have been fun. Except I can't sing. I want to sing harmony, but I can't. But just today, just whatever relationship you have, if you're married, do this in your marriage. If you have kids, do this with them. Do it at your job, at your school this week, in your classes. Try to go this week not causing any disharmony. It is stuff that bugs you to no end. Like just pray about it. And don't even mention it to these people, and start to just build them up. When you see them, what they're doing that helps glorify God, when you see something that is evidence of God's grace in their life, and magnify that, point that out, and try to come alongside and even make it even louder and better. And you're going to find that your heart gets warmer and warmer. Man, I've gone too long, which is good because I'm a little bit over on this, so we won't have as much time for this. We're going to come back to this next week if you look down at verse 18, and we're going to finish Romans 12. So you'll see more about this. But listen, the reason we're not living in harmony is because we've been haughty, which is just a fun word to say. Not haughty like haughty, but haughty, like prideful is what the word means. It really means to be arrogant, feel arrogantly superior or disdainful. And so when you're proud, you won't associate with the lowly. You'll be wise in your own sight. But listen, and this a quote, and I'm done. This is a quote in a verse, and I'm done. You ready? So get this. Most of the conflict in your life, right now, can be directly related to someone being prideful. Maybe you, maybe the other person, or maybe both of you, probably both of you, think you're better than you are, or you've been slighted or misunderstood, and you care more about you being understood than the other person being made to feel welcome, being okay. And because they feel that way about you, or their pride has led them to sin against you, there's been a division that's been caused. And until somebody gets humble, and until they get humble and will make things right, there's always going to be that wall there. But you don't have to have bitterness because of it. But it's that pridefulness that creates division. So when we say we're too good to hang out with someone else, or if we look down on other people all the time, that's not what we're called to do. If we're surrendered to Jesus, we're called to, what does it say, associate with the lowly, to never be wise in our own heart. Now the danger with this, and we're almost done, is that you then become vulnerable. Like you open your house and you let people come over, someone might break your stuff. So there's your wallet part. You let people into your life and they're going to see that you're not as awesome as your Facebook makes you look, right? They're going to see that you have issues, but we've got them too, so don't judge me, and you know how that goes. Anyway, so you get all these things going. They're going to see that your life's not perfect. They might reject you. They might hurt your feelings. It might be a risky. It might be a danger, and so it's a risk. So if you don't want to do this, if you don't want to do what we're talking about today, just don't be vulnerable. That's all you have to do. C.S. Lewis wrote about this in a work. It's called The Four Loves. You can look it up. The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis that wrote Chronicles of Narnia. He said this: "To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything, and your heart will certainly be wrung and possibly be broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give your heart to no one, not even to an animal." That's why we're not getting a dog, Kelly. So, because it's going to break your heart, right? It's going to break your heart. I can't have all you guys move out and then have the dog die, right? It's going to be too much for me. So, but you don't give your heart to anything. We probably will get one day after they're all gone. But it's for the mess, not for the thing. Anyway, if you don't want your heart to be hurt, be vulnerable. Wrap it carefully round with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But know this: in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable. He says irredeemable. I would say frozen. So if you're going to have a warm heart, you've got to be vulnerable. You're going to have to open up. You have to get connected and risk, and you're going to talk to some people, and it's going to be awkward, and they're going to not want to hang out with you. You're going to invite them to lunch. Dare you do that. Just start inviting. If you're going to lunch somewhere, just take somebody with you. Invite somebody to go with you. And it may not work today. It may work next time, or have someone to your house. But what's going to happen is we open ourselves up and reach out to our neighbors and start to care about others and listen to them and offer our finances and our homes and our lives to others. We're going to find Romans 12:21 true in our lives. We're not going to be overcome by evil, but we're going to overcome evil with good. We're going to change this world. So do you need a spiritual jump start? Maybe you might feel my battery's not strong enough to jumpstart anybody else. Well, just be open, because hopefully some people in here are going to reach out to you, but maybe you need to go give a jump start to someone else, and that's going to help you get fired up. Don't isolate yourself. Start to connect. Give. Check on the back. Get involved in the journey home somehow. You don't even have to be a host home, but just get involved in helping us get people connected. Go next door, see Solvay, say, hey, I want to help kids feel welcome and parents feel welcome. I want to provide just a great environment for kids and get connected on our Pro Kids team, or get on our welcome team, or maybe it is moving the grill out front, or just getting to know your neighbors and taking time to talk to them, and having the kids come over to your house to hang out. Like, make your house the place where everybody is, and whatever it is, open yourself up. Maybe Wednesday night. It's this Wednesday night. Instead of watching whatever you're watching or doing whatever you're doing, you say, I'm going to take some food up there. But it's just a thing of Hawaiian rolls, which are great, man. I could eat those alone for dinner. and just come and we're going to share a meal together. And I'm going to sit at a table with some people that I haven't talked to in a long time or I don't even know yet, and just get to know someone new. You don't know who you're going to meet. So come at 6:30 for that. And then we're going to play this giant life-size board game. It's going to be awesome. You don't want to miss it. So the whole family come Wednesday night, 6:30, play the board game about 7 if you can't get here until then. So come anyway, get connected that way. But surrender, really, where it probably will start for you, some of you, is to surrender your life to Jesus right now. And then once you do that, once you trust Christ, know that this surrendered life is supposed to be a shared life. So imagine what it would look like if every person in this room, if every person in every church today that preaches the gospel, we weren't content to go home and just park a car in the garage, if you can even do that. I don't know who you are if you can do that, or just run right inside the house. But instead of going in, we see our neighbors outside, we start to connect with them, care about them, listen to them, find out, help them. What would it look like if every family that lived on your street knew they weren't alone, knew that there was someone there on that street that cared about them? If at your school, the people that were rejected by others knew that you loved them, that knew that they had a friend. What if we want to make it possible? We really get this vision, which I think we have it, but we kind of adopt Airbnb. I like the way they wrote it. We want to make it possible for everyone to be able to belong when they come here, to believe when they come here, or when we live in a neighborhood, or when we go to a school or our jobs, the people around us should be able to connect with us and with others, and that has the potential to transform them. What we'll find is that we'll end up changing the world. Then that kid that's heading the wrong way, you're going to find that instead of just being annoying, their life could be changed because they had an adult like you or a friend like you speak in their lives. Maybe someone that's rejected the gospel like I had done. It wasn't a bunch of logical truth that really got me. God used that. But it was when I got to know people that loved me, that loved Jesus too. And I saw it in their life. That's what made the difference. And they took time with me. I was going to in their house actually, arguing for atheism with this Christian leader. But they were just so loving to me. I just saw how they treat each other. You're going to see people that will walk in these doors that are going to give up on God, but because you connect with them, you invite them to lunch, you reach out to them, you're going to see whole generations change. It's going to be amazing. So let's just pray together real quick. You just bow your head with me real quick. If you don't know Jesus, I just want to encourage you right now. I don't think you're here by accident. In fact, I know you're not here by accident because God has kept you alive. He created you and He loves you. And if in this moment you're willing to turn from your sin and trust Jesus, the Bible says that whoever calls on the name of the Lord can be saved. So you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to go to a class. You don't have to memorize all the books of the Bible and God forgives you. You understand that you've broken His law and sinned against Him, and you're willing to trust that Jesus' death on the cross, because your sin deserved death, is what the Bible says. When He died on that cross, He did that to pay for our sin as our substitute. So He said, when you believe in me, when you trust me, surrender to me, I'll forgive you, and you'll be part of my family, and I'll give you a new heart, and I'll be hospitable toward you, and I'll welcome you into a heavenly home one day, but even right now, into my family. So if that's where you are, I just want to encourage you in this moment, just talk to God in your heart. Just say, Lord, I know I'm a sinner. I know I need forgiveness. Today, I want to turn from my sin and surrender to you, Jesus. I believe you died for me. I believe you rose again. And because you're alive, I want to follow you. I want to surrender to you today. Now, if you've already done that, if you did just do that, please check the back of your connection card and get it to me or talk to me about that. And then if you've done that, but you found your heart growing cold, will you ask God to work in your heart right now and show you if you're feeling isolated, just pour that out to God. But also maybe ask God to show you someone that you could help, that you could connect with, and pray for them by name. And if there's no one that comes to mind, ask Him to show you something. Because I know there's people all around you that feel isolated. So ask Him to show you and pray for them just a moment. Father, I do pray for the people that were just mentioned to you, God, that we would see not only them being connected, but that you would use specifically these people right here, use us to make a difference in their life, to help them not feel isolated. And for those in here that feel isolated, Lord, please, Lord, use us in their lives and put people around them tomorrow and this afternoon. And Lord, I know you love them, and I know that, Or if they'll draw near to you, you'll draw near to them. So let them just be so aware of your love and your presence. They know they're not alone. But let them practically see it today from someone that they maybe weren't even expecting it from. Help them to be connected. Where we know a surrendered life is a shared life. And help us to share ours in the most effective way possible. I believe in doing that, we will change this world. I ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.